When Mark Zuckerberg told us, the future is living in a one-bedroom apartment, experiencing the world through my plastic VR accessory, understandably, we mocked him. But then, when Tim Apple did it, we were excited beyond all reason. Why? What is it about the Vision Pro that caused this sudden shift? And can the world of spatial computing be accessed by us PC folk? It turns out the answer is yes. So let's talk about why the Vision Pro is the most exciting piece of technology that I've used in years, and why I can't wait to pack it up and put it away. Odoo. Their all-in-one software will let you focus on running and improving your business rather than playing hot potato with a bunch of mismatching apps. Click the link below or watch till the end of this video to learn more. First contact with the Vision Pro is something you won't soon forget. The material choices and the build quality are exceptional to the point where I would say they are the best we have ever seen on a VR headset. From the aluminum frame, to the curved glass front, to the fabric headband, it is on a whole different level, which should result in a very comfortable headset. But there is one small problem. These hinges do not rotate. The hinge where it attaches is no hinge at all. It doesn't swivel, which from my experience means choosing between either extra pressure on your forehead or wearing it higher and having extra pressure on your cheekbones, and in my case, particularly the bridge of my nose. Now, Apple acknowledges this with the inclusion of their dual loop band, but this has the exact same problem of inflexibility, meaning that, say for example, you like to wear a back ponytail, you better learn to wear a top one or a low one. And it makes mounting the device more annoying and still resulted in subpar comfort for me. The good news is that it's easy to forget, at least for a while, the second the screen turns on. Believe every single word you heard from the Apple evangelists in your life, because holy balls, does this thing ever look incredible. At just under 4K per eye, with nearly 3 times the pixel count of the Meta Quest 3, not to mention no discernible screen door effect whatsoever. It is unlike anything that I have ever experienced. The 12 cameras on the front and bottom of the device create a 3-dimensional live view of the world around you that, again, crushes Mr. Zuckerberg's best efforts. And this is all thanks to Apple's latest homegrown silicon, the R1, which handles the video stitching and pass-through, as well as eye tracking, hand tracking, and head movements in a way that I just didn't think would be possible for quite a long time. Now, one thing to be careful of is getting fingerprints on the cameras, as it's very easy to do accidentally while putting the headset on, and it will make things look a little fuzzy. When it's working its best though, my goodness, is it ever incredible. You look around, you resize, you reposition objects in virtual space, and it's shockingly smooth and natural, as long as you don't want to do something Apple says you're not allowed to do, like, oh, I don't know, zoom something in more than you're allowed to. Another Apple thing is that they tend to be selective about publishing their specs, and they opted not to publish a field of view number for this headset. Now, that could be because it varies depending on your exact face shape and how you wear it. The thicker cushion, for example, will shrink it a little bit. But the more likely reason is that it kind of sucks. Let's find out using what Alex calls, oh thank you, the FOV Finder 5000. For context, the Valve Index is around 110 degrees, and the leading headset from Pimax is about 160, with the original Oculus Rift being 88. I am going to go ahead and move this until I can no longer see the edges, which occurs...
That's 79 degrees.
Oh. Well, that's not very good, is it?
That test actually wasn't 100% accurate because we measured the FOV of the cameras, not Linus's actual FOV, which would be a little bit larger because Apple is distorting stuff. So look, if I put this on right here and look at this grid on the wall, when I look at it straight on, everything seems to be pretty straight in the middle, and then on the sides it'll be curved. But if I look at the corner, it is actively compensating for those distortions in my eyes. What's even more surprising is that if I go in here, take off the light guard and put it on like this, My expectation was that the camera's FOV would stay the same, but it actually gets much larger. So before I could only see about the edges of this, now I can see all the way out to here, which is why you can get between like 90 up all the way to 110 on this, and it's using the eye tracking to actively compensate for those differences.
Of course, Apple has made it abundantly clear that the Vision Pro is not a VR headset. It is a spatial computing device for professional work. It's meant for serious things. So, naturally, the first thing we wanted to do was game on it, because on paper, it should be very good. $7 for an Apple Arcade subscription later, and we're in. The headliner game for the Apple Vision Pro appears to be Super Fruit Ninja, and I can't think of a better game to illustrate both its incredible strengths and its complete and utter failings. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Look at this, you guys. Everything around me, in spite of the high resolution of these displays, is rendered in crystal clear image quality with no discernible frame rate drops. It is far and away the best that I have ever seen on a headset. And that is thanks to the same M2 chip as the current MacBooks. And this too, Apple's environmental mapping and the solidity of the placement of virtual objects in the real world makes everything else I've ever seen look like a cheap toy in comparison. Unfortunately, the whole thing falls apart the second you try to interact with the game. Hey, remember when I said no frame rate drops? In a traditional inside-out headset, like the Quest 3 or the PSVR 2, not only are there cameras tracking where your hands are, there are gyros, thank you, and accelerometers inside the controllers that will handle quick movements, fine movements, or fill in the gaps during any times when your hands are not visible or the cameras temporarily lose tracking for some reason. Without that accelerometer input, the Vision Pro simply doesn't have the tracking fidelity for a game like Fruit Ninja, with every single loss that I experienced on the device feeling like the Apple Vision Pro was to blame, not my skills. Hey. And honestly, playing anything but the slowest paced of iPad apps made me feel pretty much the same way. I just immediately wanted my stupid slab of glass back. Of course, we went into this knowing the Vision Pro isn't a VR gaming headset, so why don't we move on to one of its greatest strengths? Putting an enormous high-fidelity display anywhere you want, and then using that to play real games. Now, I went into this assuming that getting Windows working on this headset would be a chore and a half, or at least 1.3 chores. I mean, Apple doesn't even let you buy the Vision Pro if you don't already have a reasonably current iPhone. But as it turns out, the process is incredibly simple. If you only want to play games, all you've got to do is download the Steam Link iPad app from the App Store, choose what computer you want to stream from, and it figures out the rest. I mean, is that something or what? What kind of absolute mad lad would have a TV this big? Whee! It's a little laggy. Would I find it easier to play just looking at the laptop screen with the 12 milliseconds or so of pass-through? Dude, with all the just like compression blocking and everything, and the fact that this is only at 1080p, the experience like this is pretty similar. Whee! Of course, a key difference is that I can't put that display anywhere that I want. And as much as I might complain about the latency, it's good enough for most gamers in most games. For example, in Forza, assuming you're a halfway decent driver, you'll probably find that frame pacing is more important than a little bit of lag here or there. But if you were to play other games, competitive games, even driving ones like, say, Rocket League, the latency is too high to, for example, counter a last-second fake-out from your opponent. Steam Link also has some big limitations regardless of which headset you're using. The highest resolution that you can stream is 1080p, and you can only play games. But that, my friends, is where sunshine and moonlight come in. And no, I'm not telling you to go outside. Sunshine, available on the Lizardbyte GitHub page, allows you to easily convert your PC or laptop into a streaming server. Then, the Moonlight iPad app on your Vision Pro will give you full access to your Windows machine at up to 4K 120 frames per second. Though it should be noted you're going to need one heck of a wireless access point in order to hit that consistently. 4K, here we go. I'm not even going to try 120 right now. Our Wi-Fi in this part of the office is not great. The spatiality of the audio is incredible. Like, that TV's behind me now. No question. Whee! Unfortunately, with our Wi-Fi on the sets not being as good as we'd like, Sunshine and Moonlight didn't perform that great in gaming. But the big killer app is not really games. It's the ability to just use a Windows PC with a virtual desktop in the Vision Pro. And for that, it works freaking great. Like, look at this. Honestly, Alex, I gotta say, the latency feels very, very similar to the native connection to the MacBook.
I'll try it.
This is going to be the thing that finally breaks Apple and makes them integrate touch into macOS. The fact that people are gonna be sitting there in their Vision Pro and just wanna click on things, and then they're gonna introduce it, and everyone's gonna be like, wow, it's so obvious. Sometimes it's nice to be able to tap on things, and then they're gonna put touchscreens on Macs. This is it, mark my words. And if it doesn't happen, then it is only because of Apple's complete and utter stubbornness. There's no other reason. Wow, it is struggling a lot more in this environment, but over at the lab, I did not have the same problem. It was a little laggy, it was fine. Yeah, once again, I've got serious latency issues, which underscores that you are going to need a really nice modern access point for the best possible experience on this. I'll show you a little bit of contrasting footage here to give you some idea of what this is supposed to look like. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not the kind we have here on the set. So using Windows on a big old virtual spatial display, incredible. The latency is very similar to using it on the MacBook, which means there is some, regardless of your access point, but it's very, very usable and worth the trade-off of the giant display. The only thing that I'd say is different is that it doesn't have that really cool augmented reality Connect thing that is such a, mwah, it just works moment. Now, if you do have some weirdness, part of that comes down to the way that Apple made their wireless chipset, and apparently setting your router to use channel
149
can help solve it. Bottom line, incredible for non-competitive games. With a powerful GPU in the streaming system, I'd say this is pretty much the definitive way to experience Baldur's Gate 3 or something from the Witcher series. But if you're a competitive gamer, you could get nearly the same field of view while having much lower latency for a lot less money. So, gaming perspective aside then, let's take a look at the Vision Pro more in the ways that Apple intended, which is where the device starts to get, in some ways, cooler, but in other ways, a bit more complicated. I've already stated that this is the best video pass-through that I've encountered by a metric mile, but pass-through has never been a core function of a headset to quite the same degree before. On a PSVR or most PC headsets, it's a convenience feature, so you can find your water bottle in between rounds. But on the Vision Pro, the expectation is that you're doing work, probably in an office with other humans, while in pass-through mode for extended periods of time, which can get rather strange because it literally warps your perception of reality. Oh yeah, that's really disorientating. They won't be seeing it in 3D, so they won't realize how this tree, like... You see, the camera distorts your perception of objects, particularly ones that are too close, and while the pass-through is shockingly low latency, allowing you to easily dodge a thrown object, the perception of depth of really everything around you is going to be a bit off. The good news is that your brain is really good at compensating for this. So when you hear people say, yeah, the first 30 minutes was kind of weird, but then it just clicked, you can expect to have a pretty similar experience. The weird one, though, is that your brain also clicks the other way. So when you take the headset off, it's typical to have a minute or two of, Whoa, hold on a second before things click back into place. Speaking of things clicking into place, a big pet peeve of mine with this product is the complete inability to grab something in the virtual world and pin it in your peripheral vision while you go about the rest of your life. In fairness to Apple, the accuracy of the way that it takes an object and keeps it exactly where you left it is incredible. It's just that I don't always want to have to carry things around with me when I want to refer back to them, like this script. Another thing that bummed me out anytime I spent an extended period in pass-through was the video fidelity. And look, I don't want to take anything away from what Apple has achieved here, but I could never forget that I was looking at a video feed of the world through phone cameras. Compounding this issue is the fact that virtual content rendered by the Vision Pro is so high fidelity and so vibrant that the real world ends up looking drab and dull by comparison. Here, I can demonstrate this. That right there is a color checker classic on what is a, by all accounts, beautiful and color accurate screen. This is a color checker classic in the real world. See the difference? Another major issue is motion blur. While the pixel response times of this micro OLED display allow objects to look extremely crisp even when in motion, as you move your head, it's normal for the whole world to end up looking and feeling a little bit jello-y. Also, Apple is regularly forced to use weird shutter angles in order to compensate for the flickering of lights around you, which can in some cases cause them to have to crank the ISO, adding a bunch of noise to the image, even in well-lit rooms. While we spent a lot of time so far talking about things you can do with the Vision Pro, I actually spent most of my time with the device doing what you are supposed to do, which is professional work in my own virtual space, and it can be really sweet. I love being able to take private notes in a meeting or work on sensitive material in a group setting, but the problem is that it cuts both ways. One of the first things that I wanted to do was share a document with someone and mark it up together. And yeah, because there's no obvious way to mirror my MacBook's display, I had to use a bizarre workaround that involved screen sharing from inside the Vision Pro to a video conference with someone who was sitting there on a laptop next to me in the same room. Also, even if all you want to do is work privately, the whole setup can be a bit of a chore. I mean, the Vision Pro sounds like having your own personal Colin holding a TV for you and then allowing it to be repositioned and float effortlessly wherever you want. But in practice, I just don't really often need to do that. And neither do a lot of people. For example, Nicole. Here's a real person doing real work. For a fraction of the cost of a Vision Pro, she has multiple 4K displays all within her field of view at once. And this is how much she has to move her head in order to look between them. Wow. Again, I appreciate this thing for the technological marvel that it is. A 4K display in a single square inch? But for optimal text clarity, you need to use most of those pixels, meaning that the virtual monitor needs to be absolutely massive for the Vision Pro to really shine, making your workspace feel less like this and more like this. Obviously, this demo is meant to be illustrative more than literal. For one thing, the Vision Pro does not currently support more than one MacBook display, and we have 5. Also, it's more like having a much larger TV that is quite a bit farther away. And that is a good thing in the sense that you'll be focusing more than a few feet in front of you, but I still found that in spite of that, eye strain was a big problem for me if I spent more than an hour or so in spatial computing land. Making this productivity problem worse is the fact that at this time, the Vision Pro doesn't allow you to save your layouts. So every time you want to get back into it, you've got to put it on, authenticate, connect to your MacBook, resize that display, open a Safari window, put that over there where you want it, maybe your emails go over here. It's a lot of friction that our editors, for example, don't go through every time they want to sit down and get a couple hours of work done before their eyes and face hurt too much to continue. But none of that was my biggest disappointment. That actually came on day one, when I took home my shiny Vision Pro, super excited to play with what is arguably the most revolutionary device to hit the market in years, and quickly realized there's nothing to do. You can experience things, you can watch TV, look at 3D models, you can play iPad apps with kind of janky controls, but I realized really quickly I wasn't having any fun. I know app support is going to expand rapidly, and in the near future, there will almost certainly be some really cool stuff to do. But at the moment, what's available ranges from boring to outright dystopian. So what is it good for? If you don't need it for work, I'd say watching stuff in your own private movie theater is the killer app. You can really appreciate the higher streaming quality of extras at lmg.gg/floatplane, and watching 3D movies in this thing is second to none. I think it's even safe to say that watching Encanto on the Vision Pro in 3D is the absolute best way to experience that movie. By myself. It's just that for the price of a Vision Pro, I could get a flagship LG C3, I could get a coffee table and a couch, and then I could experience it with my friends. I mean, sure, it might not be as immersive, but I know which one I'd rather have. I'll be back in a minute, guys. First, I just gotta finish up this review. Honestly, I felt the same way about spatial photos and videos. Reliving them? Absolutely amazing, and it feels like you're there again. So if you have a spatial capture capable iPhone, now is the time to start using that feature so that when a Vision Pro that's worth buying appears, you're gonna be ready to look back on those memories with a level of depth that is unmatched, even if it is a little janky still. So for all my criticisms, I don't hate the Vision Pro, and I don't even think that it's bad. It's an incredible feat of engineering, and it delivers on its promise of enabling new ways of interacting with each other and with the world around us. It's just not for me, and not right now. I just can't think of a single thing that I would do with the Vision Pro that I wouldn't rather do on a device that I already own. And think about it. For $3,500, almost $4,000 with a decent amount of storage, I could read on my Kindle, work on my laptop, watch shows on my TV, and game on my PS5. And I can practically hear you guys saying, well, yeah, but everything that you just said is true of the smartphone as well. This is your Ballmer moment, Linus. This is never gonna take off. But guys, I'm not saying it's not gonna take off. It will. It's just that there's a major hurdle that Apple needs to overcome, and that's convenience. My smartphone, guess what, is also a worse version of everything else that I already own. The difference is that it's already in my pocket. The Vision Pro, on the other hand, well, at least this version of it, with its unwieldy shape and giant battery bank, is very, very not in my pocket. It's also not in this segue to our sponsor,
Odoo. Imagine this, you're running a business, but it's being held together by a bunch of different software, kind of like electronic bandages. It's not ideal. And that's where Odoo and their business management suite comes in. They take the essential elements of any business and combine them into one unified operating system. Their CRM and sales apps make lead generation and closing deals easier than ever, while their point of sale and inventory apps make selling and product tracking a breeze. Also, their accounting app lets you auto-create and send invoices, and it integrates with 28,000 banks from all over the world. But let's say you don't need absolutely all of that. Well, because Odoo is so highly customizable, you only have to choose the apps that your business will use. And if you find yourself just needing a single app, you can use it for free. With all that being said, the best part is that it's super easy with a user-friendly interface, AI-powered features, and a support team that'll have your back. So don't overwhelm your business with a bunch of software. Odoo unify your processes by checking out the link below for a free 14-day trial or to set up a demo with Odoo's expert team.
If you guys enjoyed this video, why not go check out our review of the Quest 3? Okay, is it as good as the Vision Pro? No. But is it
Fun?
Fun? Yeah, actually.